with that revenue, schools have been spending it on facilities, on coaches, on athletic administrators, but not on students. So the question becomes, how come the students can't share in that in many, many different ways? And it's driven some lawsuits about, is it antitrust to limit the number of scholarships and the amount? Or is there's a movement now at Northwestern to create a union to negotiate? So there's a lot of things happening that is going to mean the bigger power schools will break away and gain more independence.
I think
Let's go through it.
intercollegiate athletics right now is at as transformational a time as any as I can remember in 20 plus years working in it, Peter. And what's qualitatively different, in my opinion, is that really the governance and control is not exclusively with the administrators anymore. I think the judicial challenges that are in motion are as significant as the Supreme Court decision deregulating television. We're talking NCAA Board of Regents level type impact here. So the O'Bannon case related to image likeness and ultimately media rights is going to be an important case, but really I think the Kessler lawsuit that you referenced goes to the heart of the collegiate system as it's developed, and unless there's a reset, candidly, back within higher ed, and it goes to exactly what you're saying, recruiting, pre-enrollment is a big part of that, then I think we're looking at a much different world 10 years from now.
Are the Notre Dame
#1 high school player last year in the country. You played some rookie ball in Arizona last year. How's the transition been for you as you make this next huge step to full season, 140 game A-ball?
You know, you go from being a normal high school kid and someone throws a dollar amount at you and you have to, you know, make the decision on whether you're going to go to college or you're going to accept the dollar amount and go live off on your own. And being 18 years old, that's not the easiest process to go through. You have to mature a lot as a young man, and really you see life differently. You see, if I do this, what are the repercussions, and if I don't do this, what are people going to think? And you know, just for me to accept the amount of money and come out here and be part of the Cleveland Indians, you know, I feel very greatly honored that I get to represent them every day.
A couple of years there, and I'll never forget when our 2007 team showed up. We had a $1 million pitching rotation. Justin Masterson was in it, and several other highly touted prospects. But when those guys showed up, it was Justin and Michael Bowden, who ended up playing a little bit with the Sox and the Cubs, and a couple other guys. They handled themselves differently, and you could just tell that they were on a different level than the rest of their teammates. And several of their teammates, position guys, ended up making the big leagues too, but they just handled themselves differently. And you know, and even at a young age, I mean, you kind of saw it here with Clint. You know, there's a maturity level there that you don't see with the 25 other guys, and that usually bodes well for them. You know, whether they know it or not, at least that's what I've seen.
record? What are the characteristics you look for as a player agent who has his choice?
Yeah, in our business, the relationship that develops between the player and us as the agency it's a very unique relationship, and I think probably transcends a lot of other business relationships. It becomes very personal. And I think the services you offer, obviously, you need to be able to provide all those things, and from legal, marketing, all the way down. But the personal relationship is so important, and so I think when you're looking for new clients, when you're in that recruiting phase, the key is finding people that are the right fit. And players, different athletes, whatever sport it might be, they're looking for an agent that's the right fit for them. And I think the key is, and I've learned this as time has gone on, we want to find the right fit for us too.
And number three, how many years the contract is. And perhaps if there's an option out, the player may have an option out, the team may have an option out, the team may have an option to renew, the player may have an option to renew. But all of that is simply you plugging in that information. Now, obviously, the amount of zeros in the compensation exhibit is very notable. But those contracts are negotiated by my general manager and my assistant general manager. We do not get involved in player contract negotiations, nor do we have to draft those contracts, because the worst player in the league and LeBron James or Kevin Durant, the best player in the league, all have virtually the same contract. 99% of their contracts are identical. The amount of money they make is the only thing, in a material sense, where there's a variance between the worst player and the best player.
Different. As a corporate executive, you can work till you're 65 and even longer. As a professional athlete, I mean, even Brett Favre found out it does end. There's no, you know, career. There's no senior NFL, and so you have to kind of combine, you know, maybe a decade of earning power and savings into what a corporate executive can accomplish over 30 or 40 years, and that's extremely difficult because, you know, we live in a society of wants sometimes versus needs. And you know, athletes fall into that, you know, situation sometimes where it's about the material things. So it's important, you need to educate these guys and have them focus more on the needs versus the wants, and then living below your means instead of at or above your means because of the salary you make, because when it ends quickly, and it ends fast and sometimes not on your terms. So you need to be prepared for that ultimate, you know, day when it does end.
Talk about it. When LeBron James' then agent Aaron Goodwin turned down coverage when he was turning pro, what happened there?
Yeah, I insured LeBron when he was here in Cleveland, and as I do with all of our clients, we offer a comprehensive simplification of their insurance program. And when LeBron was just getting out of high school, I was well aware of what the possibilities were for him, obviously, which came to fruition. And unfortunately, his agent declined an umbrella policy, which is an excess liability policy to protect him from lawsuits, et cetera, things like that. Unfortunately, his agent declined the coverage, and at that time I just said, if it's something you're not going to allow me to do to protect your client properly, I'd prefer to walk away from that. Needless to say, he was very shocked by that. How can you walk away from LeBron? I said, it's not a problem. It's an integrity issue for me. I'm a consultant just like a lawyer would be or a doctor or anything like that, so we need to protect your client properly. So he decided not to get the umbrella. Ironically, when you look at it now, it's kind of silly to even think about something like that, and I decided to drop him as a client.
So you became famous for the person who fired LeBron.
Exactly right, exactly right.
Well done.
As you're doing contracts, there's 2 or 3 very, very important clauses within a golfer's club equipment contract, and the suitability clause is very, very important because if you can't play the equipment, your career is derailed. So you have to have the flexibility to move in and out of a contract if you can't play the equipment. Anyway, at that point, we were really curious to see what the tour really knew. So all VJ wanted to do was 2 things. He had to sue the tour because he's trying to help the other players. He sued the tour, so this wouldn't happen to the other players. So he sued the tour. This has been dragged on for a long time. They finally opened up the case in November. A judge heard it, dropped 10 of the charges, but allowed 1 to go through. And it was an important one because it allowed VJ's team to go into discovery and see what the tour had on other players. It's very well known that there's 3 or 4 other very high-profile players that have been suspended for drug charges that the tour has treated differently. And that's all that VJ's fight is for, is I'm going to fight this, and he's footed all his own legal bills. He's going to fight this because he thinks the tour did him wrong by not helping him, and 2, they've treated him differently than the other players who have also had drug charges.
Here comes this little girl. She was 9 years old, just turned 9 years old. Her knees were bigger than her legs. I mean, they had like little bumpy knees. And, you know, long blonde hair, you know, very direct, you know, way about her. And I said to her, you know, nice to meet you. What would you like to do? She said, I want to become the best tennis player in the world, which I hear sometimes, but never with this kind of intense kind of, you know, focus. And so I said to her, why don't you just hit the ball for 10 minutes and we'll take a look. And needless to say, about 30 minutes later, she'd probably missed 2 balls. And I mean, she just never missed. I mean, it went on from 9 until she was 16 years old, just turning, and then she won Wimbledon. And suddenly she went from, and that was the beginning of Maria. And she just got to the finals of the French Open about an hour ago. So she got a chance to win. Yeah, she got a chance to win again. And that was a great story of, you know, taking a client all the way from the beginning through the academy system to the top level of the pros.